And welcome everyone to another exciting journey on Riding Through the Unknown. I'm your host, Michael, and today's guest is a returning guest, but we have been talking about so many things. I was like, we gotta have him back on. And he also reached out to come back on and share some topics with us. And so I am super excited and blessed that we were able to make this work. And so I'm going to give the option to my guest to either introduce himself again or jump right in and start talking about the topics that we have. So I'm going to turn it over to the one, the only time traveling informational extraordinaire, Aage Nost.
All right. Well, thank you, thank you. I have coffee in hand and I am ready to go. So I know you suggested that we talk about what happens after we drop the body. Like most people call it, we die. I hate to use that word because nothing dies. Just go into a different room.
Right. I like the metaphysical definition where we transition from one form to another form.
There you go. That'll work. Yep. And you also suggested that we talk a little bit about time travel and maybe timelines, because these days people don't realize this, but maintaining a timeline with good things in it is a very important, and we have control of what we can keep in that timeline. In fact, one of my books here, I'm going to show you in a little bit, I have a whole chapter in the back of it about how you can do two things. One of it, control your timeline so you make sure there's good things in it, as well as also be able to manipulate time and see and experience things in the future and the past. Yes, the future too. So just hang on, don't go anywhere. Like we used to say, don't touch the dial. So, oh God, am I that old?
I remember those, so if you are, I'm that old with you.
Yeah, yeah, God, I'm older than some of the hills around here, so I guess I remember that. But yeah, the rumor on the street is that there will be a day when we all are supposed to be able to experience what it is in the so-called afterlife. Um, for some of us, well, I'm talking for myself now, another 275 years, then I'll get to see it too. But the first thing that happens when you drop the body, you are going to be really surprised. You're going to stand there, look back at yourself. Wait, I'm in bed, but I'm here too. How can that be? Can I be two different places? It's going to blow your mind unless you really have studied it so you understand the environment that you step into. Now, that is very important. And that's another thing you'll find in that book I'm going to show you in a little bit, because that explains what you can expect and what is out there.
You know,
See there?
I have an
Yeah.
interesting question for you, Augie. I, I'm wondering when we do, like you say, drop the body and are looking back, is it the shock of seeing ourselves that will cause a lot of confusion and, possible conflict with where we are? Or is it the fact that our mind is going to be flooded with, like, they call it the ultimate knowledge? We will have access to absolutely everything. And so, will that be what causes us to sit there and go, wait a minute? How, how do I process all of this?
Yeah, from what I understand, the sensations of what you will experience after you leave the physical body is going to be anything from absolute terror, fear, surprised, and in some cases, yes, I graduated. Now I'm getting out of here. All of those feelings can show up. Depends on your level of conscious understanding of the universe and yourself and life. So, if you understand that this physical body is actually nothing, it is just a presentation that is created as a construct for the mind to be able to run around and have experiences.
Like a
So,
vessel.
yeah, vessel, there you go. And there is a lot to learn while we're here, and there's a lot to learn after we drop the body. See, a lot of people out there, if you stumble onto this show as an absolute atheist, you don't think there's nothing after you die. You are one of those people that's going to be really surprised. And you are going to say to yourself, huh, now what do I do? Yeah, you don't know what's going on. But there's a lot of evidence, absolute evidence for the fact that there is something after. Let me just spend a minute on that because we have the videos of ghosts. YouTube is full of it. And we have the voice recordings of spirits talking to us. Go to YouTube again, put in the Tesla Spirit Radio. There's a radio that you can make for about 25 bucks, and you can put that thing together and you can talk to dead folks. Everybody can do that if you understand a little bit about electronics, maybe solder and things. But also there is physical evidence, and that it is called ectoplasm. That is kind of like a grayish, whitish substance that sometimes just comes out of absolutely nothing and shows up in the physical. That shows up sometime when people are possessed by negative entities. They can say they comes out of their ears, they comes out of their mouth. This substance shows up, and if you run that through a electron microscope and try to find the atomic structure of it, it doesn't make sense. It's not supposed to exist. So there is physical evidence as well. But a lot of people, they're too busy with family and business and stuff to think about anything spiritual at all. And when they drop the body, yeah, they are going to be surprised. Now they're going to find themselves sitting there not knowing what to do. Or there will be somebody there to meet them. Usually their mom or their dad or their spouse or something that already may have passed. Because there's a saying, and that is that nobody dies alone. That is usually true. But there are times when there's nobody there. And that is a little alarming for some people. But in order to find out what really happens afterwards, we should talk to the experts, shouldn't we? You know, the experts are the ones that has died, gone somewhere, had experiences, and then came back to talk about it. The ones with near-death experiences. They have a lot of education to give us. And it is very, very different in the details, but very similar in concept. See, if somebody is there to meet you, I highly recommend go with them. Now, the thing is that wherever they take you is going to be where they are. So if you had perceived something different, let's say that you wanted to go back to source, and your dad shows up, and you know that your dad was kind of a businessman and he didn't really care much. That may not be what he is anymore. He may have been educated to higher consciousness, so he may be okay to go with. So, but if you hang around too long here, let's say this happens a lot. And I know that as an astral traveler, I've been able to communicate with them out there after, the dead folks. But if you hang around too long, you can get trapped. So if you are very, very much involved in business and your company, and make sure that's okay. Let's say that you got 1,000 employees, that you care about those people and you want to make sure things are okay, and you hang around here, you can get it attached so much that there will be nobody to come and get you. Or if somebody is here and you tell them, "Oh, I'll come later. Just I want to make sure my wife and my family is okay." If you hang around too long, you could get trapped and you become one of those things we call ghosts. We have a lot of videos and audios of those guys. And they're very rare that they are very happy. As an astral, or should I, out-of-body traveler, I've met some of those, and they have explained to me it is miserable. They miss their family. They miss friends. They miss what they did here. They are so attached to the physical, they don't really want to go anywhere else. Some of them don't even know they're dead. They are totally miserable because they walk around the house they used to live in, and they talk to their wife and she ignores them. The kids don't want to talk to them anymore, they ignore them, and they are totally miserable. They can't understand, why don't you want to communicate with me anymore? Well, yeah, they can't see him.
So, I actually have an interesting question for you, Augie. And in the metaphysics, we have what are called windows. And what it means is it's a moment where you are at choice to transition over or stay here. And so if we pass on those windows to stay here, is that, like what you're saying, going to increase our being stuck here, or is that a different effect of what you're talking about?
Exactly, you got it. That window is for a short period of time. When somebody come to get you, you have the chance to go home or somewhere, usually at a higher vibration than where you are hanging around the house where you used to live. So that window is open for that time. If the people that come to get you get tired of waiting, so they say, all right, give me a call when you're ready. I wasn't joking about that. Give me a call when you're ready. There is a spiritual telephone. Let's say that you drop the body. Let's say you get killed in a car accident, totally unexpected. And yes, there are accidents in the spiritual world too. It happens. And let's say that you suddenly find yourself without a physical body. You're walking around the street looking at yourself mangled all up in that car, and there's fires, and the cops are there, and everybody's there just trying to get you out. But you're standing on the sidewalk looking at it and say, that looks interesting. Wonder who that is. Well, it was you. So if you find yourself in a place where you don't want to be, there are some that have dropped the body and they find themselves in total darkness. Everything is, I can't see a thing. And they can hear things, hear voices, or they can feel there are somebody there around them that is alarming because you can't see them. I'm mentioning that because that happened to somebody that had a near-death experience. There is a telephone. If you don't want to be there, use the telephone. Remember, in the physical world, everything is communicated with your voice box, words. Outside of the physical, we don't have a voice box, so we can pass air through it to make sounds. There, everything is telepathic. So now, let's say that your mom passed 11 years ago, and visualize your mom standing in front of you. Look at her in your mind and tell her, I love you, Mom. I love you. I love you. Say it at least 3 times. And then tell her, come and get me. Telepathically, it is very likely she will get the call. And she may come and get you.
Now, when I was
So,
doing hospice work,
yeah,
one of the common things was right before it was deemed their 11th hour where they would transition on or drop the body, they always would call out to their loved ones or be like, oh, grandma's here. Oh, my mom's here. Is calling them out like in the physical the same thing as you're saying making that telephone call
yeah,
on the other side?
yeah, they have a way to come up because they know you're going to be passing pretty soon. So they come to be there and meet you and tell you, wow, you graduated. Let's go home. Because this is just a temporary school. And some of us graduate with more knowledge than others. The reason that we take on this physical body in the first place, well, several reasons. One of them is to have experiences that will enhance our spiritual growth and spiritual capacity. But souls also like to have fun. They want to have fun experiences. They want to learn things. Some of us want to learn about science. I mean, I love science and flying airplanes. I did that for 23 years. And there's something that's why we say that, in order to find out what you should do, find something you love to do and you'll never work a day in your life. I have been able to do that pretty much most of my life. And that is one of the things I'm going to take with me 275 years from now when I drop the body. So all of these experiences enhances the spiritual growth. There are some that comes and do things that also brings it the other way. There are some that come back and do things that doesn't really enhance them. That could be by plan because they needed or wanted that particular experience. I know there's a lot of people that have done things here. They are afraid that they're going to hell. You know about that place down the basement next to the furnace, right?
Right.
So that's what religions are all about. And
Yeah.
I don't think there's a rule about this because even if you've done really what we call bad things, you can still end up with bliss afterwards. The reason I'm saying that is because about 20 some years ago, I ran into a guy in Tucson that was a sniper for the army in Vietnam. And he had, I think he said, right about 20 confirmed kills. And when he came back, he told his minister about that in church, and the minister said, oh boy, killing 20 people, you're going downstairs. You're going to be in hell, so you got to prepare yourself. He believed it, but then he had a near death experience, and he found himself with family and wonderful people in long white robes and light beings, and everything was bliss. There was a phenomenal feeling of love where he was. So he came back and he told his minister, you better get your shit together because nothing like that happened to me. So I'm not coming back to this place again. He left the church and became more spiritual, and that's how he found me.
It's interesting that, so many people believe the church about like heaven and hell because like the Catholics, I'm thinking I have this right, created purgatory where that was your review. If you weren't quite sure, you were in purgatory until you deemed yourself. And then they were like, well, we're closing the doors to purgatory. So it's either one way or the other now. And it's like, wait a minute. If these are spiritual realms that we go to, how is a human closing the doors to this space? And so therefore it like reinforced to me that concepts of heaven and hell don't exist because we can't close them. And it was like, when the church said, purgatory is closed, my first thought was, well, what did you do with everybody that was still in there? Did they get
Yeah,
destroyed because you
get,
closed the doors and just forgot about them, so they just disappeared now?
yeah,
Or
that's all. You get out of here. You know, you
yeah.
can't be here anymore. Yeah. No, purgatory is an absolutely religious created manipulation of your mind. There is, but if you are Catholic and you absolutely believe in it and you didn't get the memo that it doesn't exist anymore, yeah, you may find yourself in a place like that because what we believe, totally believe, here goes with us after we leave. You may find yourself in purgatory. Or if you are absolutely sure that you're going to hell, you may find yourself in a place that resembles what you thought it would be like. But the good news is you don't have to stay there. You can
No, and
think yourself out of there.
Yeah, and I don't know if you watched TV in like I think it was 80s and 90s time frame. I don't remember which decade exactly, but there was a show called Touched by an Angel.
Yeah,
And to me, that show on so many levels should have woke up so many people, because to me the most important part about that show was actually one of the underlying factors, and that was the role of Andrew, the angel of death, because he was this nice guy that just walked up and was like, "It's time, we're gonna do the," and it was like this nice transition. It wasn't a guy with a scythe that's coming and you look like, are you gonna behead me or welcome me? What's going on here? And so I feel like that show kind of was like a, a shift in reality of what the
yeah,
transition is gonna be like, from fear to you're gonna be surrounded by love no matter what you've done, no matter what you choose, there's always that love energy there.
yeah. That's right. There is love in everything, even if it's a really bad situation. There's still love in it somewhere. You may have to look for it, but there's always something good in everything. I know that because I've had some really bad things happen, but good things came from it. In fact, I am here today because of one of those bad things that happened to me. Had that not happened, I wouldn't be here. I would be doing something different. Well, it's no secret. I've talked about it before. I lost absolutely everything I owned in 1997 and 8. So I figured to rebuild, I gotta rebuild somewhere where I don't have to shovel light and variable. In the winter times, I came to Tucson, and it was a good move.
Yeah, Tucson's a nice area, and there's there's a lot of strange activity that goes on in Tucson. I have a friend there that he likes to go up on the top of structures and watch the mysterious lights in the sky at night,
Yeah,
and around the mountain too. And I got the pleasure to join him one night, and it was quite an adventurous night. Aside from that, but yeah, I mean, you can see what looks like planes, but they're not acting like planes, and you're like, And
yeah,
this is every night?" And he's like, "Yeah, pretty much." I'm like,
yes, that's
"Wow."
true. In the Tucson mountain up here, I have a telescope that magnifies 300 times. It's a big one. And when I set that up and search in the Tucson Mountains north of the city, it doesn't happen a lot, but I have seen there is lights on the ground that comes from absolutely nowhere, just shows up. And they move around a little bit and they move on the outside. And they also look like there's people around those lights. And when then the people disappear and the light disappeared. So there is things inside those mountains north of Tucson that come out ever so often to maybe look around.
Right, and I had a similar experience when I was in Rennes-le-Chateau around midnight one night. I was walking through town where I wasn't supposed to really, but I went up with a friend anyway, and we were being really quiet just to see. And it was around one of the sacred mountains. We saw this bright light, and I was like, coming from the back of the mountains, and I was like, that's like brighter than any city I've ever seen. And we were like, but there's no city over there that's that close. And we turned and we went to the other side of Rennes Chateau and we looked down and we're like, well, here's a city right here. And all the lights are these like dim yellow, like hue lights. And I'm like, no way are they going to generate this white, bright light that we saw on the other side. And so I was like, I started convincing myself that has got to be some kind of a base, maybe UFO, I don't know, but something unusual is happening there because it was behind this one section and all the rest was dark.
Hmm. Yeah. There is things that you need to reach into quantum mechanics in order to explain it. Because there are maybe what you might have for a short moment, you may have observed a parallel timeline. You'd be surprised. We flip into different timelines, not necessarily often, but it does happen.
And
Oh,
I have an interesting question for you, Augie, around timeline jumping.
yeah.
So let's say I'm at the point where I'm about to transition in this timeline. Can I jump to a timeline where I have, say, 40 more years of life and extend my life by jumping into that timeline and extend life and, like, kind of cheat death in a way?
Yes, you can. Because timelines are very close together, just different vibration. And but it starts in the mind. You have to direct it, or it's easier that way. It may happen on its own, but you can also direct it. That's what I write about in this book here. I show you how to do that. And I think it's probably simpler than we should think, because you can design in your mind. Because remember, we live in a mind created universe. And that also extends parallel into different timelines, as well as higher in vibration into the astral world. So, yeah, it's not that hard to do actually when you start designing in your mind what you want to have in your life. If you don't have it right now, it could come from two different directions because you have thought it, you placed it into the quantum existence, and it sits there waiting to become physical reality. That is the quantum mechanics theory of inflation. That explains exactly how that works. When you thought of something, it is real outside of the physical. And then you can think of it again and start pulling it back into the physical with you so you could actually create it for the future. Now, you don't create in the past so much that way, but you can create the future. Or you can flip into a different timeline by creating the same thing in your mind. And then in a different timeline, it already exists. Then you can flip yourself into that. So it can happen.
So they tell us, like, if there are parallel timelines, that if we were to meet and interact with ourselves or make contact physically with ourselves,
Hmm.
the universe will unravel and untether, and it creates a paradox. Is that a true reality, or is that something that was programmed in so that we wouldn't try it?
Well, I think, let me speak of an example for that. Quantum mechanics tell us that if you go into the future and find yourself, now there is two of you in the future. If you touch yourself, you could create a quantum bridge and it'll throw you back out of there. This is what Stephen Hawking talked about. But there is this guy over in Sweden. He has a video of himself meeting himself in the future. He took his phone with him. He left with a phone and he found himself in the future. And he's got a video of it. And they are there, holding each other like this, and nothing happened to him. And this video is so old, I think it's about 10 years old. And I believe there could be something to this. If that is real, then the theory of the quantum bridge in quantum mechanics is not an absolute law. So I don't really worry too much about Nori Love. She is a hypnotherapist, and she does something that I haven't seen anybody else do, and that she put people under hypnosis and take them forward in time to meet themselves and get advice from themselves. Hopefully, the future you is a little smarter than we are right now. Maybe not. But when they then ask, let's say they were working on a project here, you can ask your future self, what did I do to make it work? Your future self can tell you, well, you haven't thought of it yet, but this is what I ended up doing in the past, and that made it work. Now you go back and you do that, and it will work. So this is a really interesting thing. But I don't think under hypnosis, you're not there physically. I have pictures of picture evidence of time travel on my website. In fact, if you want to see it, you can go to broadcastteamalpha.com, go into the picture gallery, and I think it is on page 15. I got over 5,000 pictures in there of things that should not exist, but it does. Strange stuff. Page 15, there's two pictures in the middle. There are two kind of greenish picture that was taken at the same time, but it's a different picture. So just click on the picture, you can read the text that goes with it, and you'll see how I did it. But these time travel is a real thing. And the reason governments and science says, there's no such thing, you can't do that, is because it's probably a good thing. What would happen if everybody could do that? You screw up the past so bad that nobody could repair it anymore, because everybody will go back and create things that they like to see, and they'll mess with other people's life that is with them at the time.
Right.
So it really will screw up reality. So I think that's a good thing that not too many people can do it. But even though back in here, there's a whole chapter on how you can do that. So I think if you look into time travel, you can find that if there's evidence. Since we're on the subject, the best evidence that I found was, I think it was about 2003 or something like that. There was a guy named he was playing the stock market in New York, and his name was Andrew Carlsen. He started with $800. And I think within 2 or 3 weeks, he had increased that to $350 million. And the regulators start looking at that and they said, wait a minute, nobody can do that. So they arrested him for insiders trading, took him to jail, put him in front of the judge, and the judge says, this is phenomenal. How'd you do that? And the guy, he didn't really talk about it much. And he said, yeah, well. And the judge asked him, we are going to, now I want to know where you got the information from. Who told you to pick on those 126 different trades only that gave him $350 million? And the guy said, yeah, he says, it got out of hand. He says, the reason that I could do that is because I'm a time traveler. And for about 70 years in the future, he says, I read history. I found out which companies would start with basically nothing and explode into higher gains. And I bet on them, he said, and the rest is history. So I really am sorry about this. You can keep the money, he said, I'll just leave. And the judge laughed at him and says, you're going to stay in jail until you tell us who gave you the information. And he put a $1 million bond on him. And about 2 days later, a guy showed up with a suitcase with $1 million in it, gave it to the bailiff at the front, the clerk, I think. And they let the guy, Andrew and him, they left, and they were never seen again. Now, there is two stories about that. One did say, oh, that's just made up story. And the other one say that is true. And if you know anything about me, I'm a little digger. So I went to the website. I called first to Rikers Island in New York, where he was kept in jail. And I also went to the prison record. And I found, I'll be dang, there is a guy named Andrew Carlson that left behind a $1 million bond and never showed up again. So, yeah, I believe the story is true. That is probably one of the best evidence besides the History Channel. They also talked about this in one of them. There's a university professor in California that teaches time travel. That's Bruce Goldberg. You can Google him and he'll show up. He teaches how to do it. And it sounds ridiculous, doesn't it? But
Actually, I kind of wonder, if, going into the future, we could take our cell phones. I get it because the technology may still be around to make them work.
yeah,
But going into the past, like let's say going to the fall of the Alamo to see, did Crockett die or was he taken prisoner in Mexico City? Well, there is no cameras, there's no like satellites or anything. So, would modern technology actually work back then? Because, one, I would think the energy to go back in time would affect the battery. So, how do you recharge it? And how would it record anything? Because it's like, would the universe allow this to happen?
well, I think it's probably easier to go back in time because that has already happened. The future has to be happen. It has to be created in order for us to be able to see anything. If nobody have ever thought about something, let's say there is a concept that nobody thought of and nobody placed into the quantum field by thinking it, it doesn't exist, then you cannot find it. You got to think of it first and create it, place it there, so that the linear time that we create here are able to reach forward to find it. And that's what one of the things, I think we talked about this once in a previous show, about the time travel device that Stephen Gibbs made, didn't we?
Yes.
Yeah. So that's the one I have. But we can reach into the past and the future. And I've seen some of the future. That's why I won't worry about the future at all. The future is good. Now, the thing about it, in order to get to the good part, there may be a month or two that is a little troublesome. Maybe, yeah, a month or two where nothing works. So we have to prepare for that. And otherwise, you can create the future here and now so you can live it before you actually have to live it in the future. Create in your mind what you want to have in your life. Then visit it every day. Walk around in it, do it, be it. And when the more you do that, the more you solidify that bubble of energy with that in it. And then you place it in the future, let's say at a Christmas party or something. So, and visit it every day, and you go up that timeline from here now until the Christmas party. And when the Christmas party comes, all you do is walk into it and it's yours. If you really want to learn how to do that, then again, here we go. I explain a lot about how to do that and I've done it very successfully quite a few times. Especially one time when I went after my dream, but I was still a farmer back in Norway. How in the world could I become a professional pilot in the United States? There's no chance. But I kept dreaming it into existence, and here I am.
Now, and that kind of brings to my mind that concept of free will and the concept of it of because we believed and put our energy to it, it made it real. And so a lot of times we will sit there, and we'll be like you're saying, I want to do this.
Mhm.
And everyone's like, that'll never happen. And it's like,
Mhm.
yeah, my grades aren't there, my credentials aren't there, but I know it's going to happen. And then it happens. And people will say, well, it was
Yeah.
meant to be.
Well,
Well,
they
was
say
it
that,
meant
oh,
to
you're
be?
lucky.
Or did you create it and manifest it because you put the energy into it beforehand?
Yeah, and the thing about it, your brother-in-law, that told you all the time that, oh, don't get your hopes up because then you won't get disappointed when it doesn't happen. He's going to say, oh, you were lucky. Yeah, it
Yeah.
just happened. Yeah, it fell in your lap. You were lucky. They cannot admit that you did it, but you did. And I would say, this creating the future you want now, place it in the future and live it all the way up to that point every day. Something is going to happen that'll help you make it happen. There are
Yeah.
people coming out of the woodwork, that people you didn't even know, that shows up to help you make it happen. You will end, let's say that you're going to do a project that costs you $11 million. There's no chance of you having that money in the next month or two, or year or two. Money just shows up. It could show up in the form of a partner. The lottery, yeah, well, that could happen too. it shows up. So for those of you out there that has a miserable thing in your life right now that you don't like very much, start creating the life, the image of yourself and your surroundings and what you have in your life in your head. Create what you want and visit that image every day. You're gonna, you see, you are creating your future right there, because we live in a mind-created universe. There are repeatable scientific experiments that prove that is true. Starting with one experiment done almost 100 years ago, the double slit experiment. Google it and you'll find out. And then we have the Helmut Schmidt experiment. He was able to alter the past in his experiment. He did it many times. And then, of course, there is James Gates. He's a physicist. He spent the biggest part of his life studying the universe. And he said, when we look deep in the equation explaining the fundamental particles of the fabric of space, we find computer language. We didn't put it there, but it shows up. So he said that proves that we are living in a simulated, mind-created existence. And when you look at the blackboard, he says, well, he's not him, others say it too. They say that if you add everything up on the blackboard, put it all together into one equation, it shows that there's a 93% chance we are living in a simulation. Somebody is creating the environment that we can run around in and have experiences, learn, grow, and also the emotion that we create has an interdimensional effect that they get to benefit from. And now
Um,
that goes back to the after death again. The,
so
there are, yeah.
I have a function or aspect to myself that I don't really share with a lot of people, and I'm curious your thoughts about it. Is when I was in my 20s and early 30s, I like my parents would ask me like, why are you doing this or this? And I would say because I know this is going to happen. And sure enough, it would happen. It's like I knew future events before future events, how they were going to unfold. And then one day I woke up and I was like, I don't have it anymore. And so I wonder on one aspect, was I timeline jumping and I jumped to a timeline and was like, "Up, that's it. Now I have no idea what's coming next because this is the last jump that I foresaw or and I never thought I'd make it there maybe." Or is it like a simulation where somebody figured out, "Oh, he is tapped in. He's aware of this. We need to stop it." And did something to end that aspect.
Well, I think the answer to that question is above my pay grade, but but I can actually imagine both of those hypotheses as you mentioned could be true. I think since there is a simulation, simulations are always done by somebody, not something necessarily, but a somebody. That means a consciousness is creating it. So if they see that you're starting to find out a little more than what you be programmed to, if you start seeing what's behind the curtain where they are, they don't want you to, they may have done something to shut that down. Because there are people that get to that point. That's called city consciousness. CIDIH consciousness. Google it and you find out. That is a person that is all mind and have no need for a physical body anymore. They are only using the physical body for ease of communication with the surroundings and the other people. I know one of those. That's not me.
Right. Well, and on the flip side too is I had two experiences, and I'll share one of them with you. And that was going through Vicksburg, the battle site, the park, and I'd be in the back seat, and all of a suddenly I was smelling gun smoke, and I could smell blood in the air. You could taste like the grittiness of the air and everything, and and I could start to see like formations of people moving and everything. And when I was talking to a guest of mine, and she said, she has a neurological background. I said to her, this is like, was I like reliving a past life moment? And that's why it was so vivid. And she said, were all your senses in that moment engaged? And I was like, I thought about it for a second, and I go, well, yeah, I could see it, I could smell it, I could taste it, I could hear it, and I felt like I could just reach out and touch. So yeah, I would say all senses were there. And she goes, that's not a past life memory. You were
Yeah,
there. You time traveled back to that moment and then came back. That's how you saw and knew everything. And so I'm kind of curious, is that your belief too when we talk about traveling into the past or into the future with all your senses engaged is a sign that yes, you are in fact doing this? Or is that another science program that's just trying to explain something that's harder to explain?
yeah. Were you in the car when this happened?
Yes.
Yeah. See, if you were time traveling back, there wouldn't be any cars back there.
Well, I was sitting in the car explaining what I was seeing. It's like I was there
Yeah.
in the car for them, but me, I was there during the siege. It's like
Yeah.
I wouldn't say when I was in Vicksburg seeing everything, I'm seeing myself in the car. I would just see myself kind of floating around, like almost like an
Okay.
observer, but not in a vehicle of any kind.
Okay. All right. Now that may then I tend to agree with her. You could have done that.
It was
Is
like it was like I've only had that experience twice in my
Mhm,
life, and
mhm.
it's like I didn't do anything to activate it, and because I didn't do anything to activate it, it's like I don't know how to do it again. So it's like kind of like one of those, maybe it'll
Yeah.
happen again or maybe not, but
Yeah, but you could probably try to put you in the same state of mind. That is maybe a gate to where you could enter into that state of mind again, where you could direct yourself back, because the mind has to be directed. And if you have things happen spontaneous, let's say time regression, without having asked for it, I doubt it would happen unless you were open to it. Your subconscious mind had to be open to it for it to be able to come from the universal mind all the way up through the subconscious up to conscious understanding. So, somewhere in your mental fabric, you have to be open to it. And I'm sure you were, because
Yeah,
there may be some outside influences that also helped you have that happen, because you had agreed to the experience, or they wanted you to have the experience.
and what was amazing to me is with everything going on, you would think, people may be, in the car, they may be like, what's going on? What's going on? What are you doing? And everything. But instead, my mom said the funniest thing to me when I felt myself return when the experience was over, is she goes, now see, I wish you were a history teacher, because the way you just explained that brought history alive. And I was
Yeah.
like, that was the nicest thing I felt like anybody could say about that experience, because in my mind I'm like freaking out and going like, how am I doing this? How am I seeing it? And to come back to this calm, like, wow, that's really cool that you did that. Thank
Yeah.
you for that kind of atmosphere. Kind of was like, okay, whatever just happened is okay.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Everything that happens is okay. Some of it we may not like at the time, but good things can come from it.
Yes, and the reason I bring this up is I have a story that someone shared with me, and I'm not disputing their story, but I'm trying to figure out if it's recreatable for someone else, and it has to do with the battlefield of Gettysburg. And they talked about they went to Gettysburg, and all of a suddenly they saw these soldiers sitting down to eat and getting prepared. They weren't really going into battle yet, so it was kind of their downtime. And so they sat down and ate with these soldiers. And then when they decided to get up and go see more of the battlefield. And when they came back, those soldiers were gone. And there was no sign that anybody was ever there. And so they went to the park rangers and were like, hey, where are the reenactors that we ate lunch with over here? And they said there are no reenactors. There never were any reenactors over that day. And so it's
Yeah.
like, is that another situation of they time traveled to
I
the
think,
past, or was it their mind being so open that they created a scenario that may or may not have happened?
well, I think there's a lot of people that have taken pictures of these soldiers. They don't just show up in your present, you can also take pictures of them. So, it was not just in your mind. The camera doesn't have a mind, it takes the picture of what is there. So, we know they're there. So, they have to be in this time. It couldn't be time travel back, because then the camera wouldn't have caught it. Now, the thing I am thinking here is that these people that were sitting there, they never knew that the war was over, and they continued into the future. So you had a time slippage or a timeline slippage, and you slipped into their timeline for a little bit. You were able to associate with them and then came back. I think there are, from what the pictures, the pictures show is that the battles of Gettysburg is still continuing. They are there, they're still fighting because they take pictures of it.
Yes, and I kind of have to wonder with all the battles of the Civil War, you know, there's Antietam, there's, Gettysburg, Shiloh. But Gettysburg was one of those major battles that was, for all intents and purposes, an accident. It wasn't planned, it wasn't orchestrated. Two armies met because one didn't know where the other was and accidentally clashed. And so everything, that was the one battle where they were like, it's a culmination of mistake after mistake after mistake because there was no plan. Could that be why, like you're saying, we're having these time slippages more apparent there because it was unexpected and therefore maybe more traumatic to them, the experience? Because I mean, when you think about it, going to Shiloh, for example, the army's over there. You're either going to die, get wounded, or survive unharmed.
Yep.
But when you're marching and all of a sudden an army's in front of you, you don't have that mental preparation of here's what's going to happen. You're all of a sudden in the oh my god, what do we do now mode. We weren't supposed to be engaging anybody today.
Yeah.
What? So does that play an impact on Gettysburg?
Yeah, I'm not so sure if they knew where the enemy was because there were things in the Gettysburg Address where they indicated that they had some pre-knowledge, but we don't really know. So I think that time is such an enigma when it comes to us slipping into another timeline. That happens. Not all the time, but it happened quite a bit. And we don't know it because it looks just like here. There's just small variances, like maybe a picture hanging on the wall in a different place. And you wonder, how did that happen? Oh, well, it's there. I must have not remembering it right.
Right.
Or details, small details. So I think pretty much anything can happen. Because there we go, that mind created universe again. And that creation goes up into the astral world as well, and up into, I don't know how far into the higher dimensions it goes as an experiment or a simulation. But an out of body traveler is pretty simple. I'll teach you how to do that in this book also. So you can go into the astral world, and it's not a good place to be. There's entities there that is pretty needy, and they're angry, and they're afraid. They attach themselves to you. So try to get through that into higher vibration, and you can think yourself into that. But when you go into the higher vibration, you see things. The entities are different. I hear people say here all the time, I can't wait until I get to the fifth dimension. Yeah, sure. You're going to find out when you get there. Not the place to be in the lower levels of the fifth dimension. But there are sixth, there are seventh. And I I've been a little bit up there, but it's difficult to get up into the higher vibrations. That is pretty much by invitation. If someone see it will help your spiritual growth to see what is up here, you could be allowed to go there. But otherwise, I tried, but it hasn't really worked for me to get up into the seventh and eighth. Some people are telling they have videos on YouTube saying, "Yeah, I've been to the 12th dimension." Yeah, sure. Uh,
Yeah.
when you get above the seventh or the eighth, it kind of flows together. It is all light with beings, conscious beings in it, and there's bliss. The home for everyone, or should I say, the source of everything up in the higher vibrations. I don't know where it is, but it is there. So, that's one of the things that we have when we drop the body, when you so called die, find yourself outside. If you go through the tunnel, when you get through the tunnel, you're going to get to somewhere. They call themselves the guardians of the soul. And they're going to be receiving you, or maybe your mom is there and she said that, hey, you graduated, come on here and meet these people. And they're going to be very convincing, trying to get you to reincarnate again to complete things that you didn't get done while you were here. So now you got a choice. Do you want to listen to them or go and take on another life cycle and go back and have all the misery that you had before because you couldn't finish it, or some other thing? But you have a choice. You could tell them, I am done with reincarnations in this vibration, in the physical. I want to go home to the source. And when you ask them, I will have no new reincarnation, I'm going back to the source. You may have to ask them 3 times before they give up on you, because what you are in front of, and I remember this from when I did it. I went back and I relived it. There is a table, kind of like that's what for me. It's a round table and there were things moving in there, and I was presented with about 3 different lifetimes. Could have been 4, I'm not sure. And evidently I picked this lifetime. And I ended up doing this, but I could also have told them, if I had known, that I don't have to do anymore. I am an eternal spirit. I have all knowledge already. I don't have to go back and relearn what I already know. So I want to go back to the source of all things, where there is only bliss. Everything is phenomenal feeling of love. Everything is good. There are no misery.
Yeah,
So
and you just got me thinking about something, and if what I'm thinking is true, it may rewrite paranormal, investigations, especially of battlefields. And that is, we return from where we, experience joy.
yeah,
Well, we're judging that these soldiers died at the battlefield and missed their window, so to speak, to go back, and do the reincarnation cycle or return to source, like you said. But what if they did go on, but this was like a moment, like, when they're marching through the fields, they were with their buddy. They were having, great conversation, even though they, going into a traumatic event. But what if that was like the last moments that they shared together and they were like, you know, I love that moment and I love sharing it. So they come back and redo it
Yeah.
and share that, or the meal, everybody, laughing, how great a feeling that was, to belong to something, because maybe they didn't have that back home. There's that, brotherhood, camaraderie that they talk of. So what if all these like soldiers that we're seeing at the battlefields are not soldiers that were, left behind, or they're stuck, or they're because of trauma, but they're because they experienced a true joy in their life, and that's where they wanted to come back and visit.
Now that's a thought. That could very well be. But they could have been just thought forms from memory.
Right.
Yeah.
Because like we say, loved ones, well, why is grandpa, on the golf course? Well, grandpa loved golf. Well,
Mhm.
so he's visiting the golf course. That makes sense.
Yeah.
We don't think of battlefields as places where, people might have, had their happy moments in their life, because of we're thinking of what happened next, not what's happening in the moment.
Yeah. Yeah. That's right. Yeah. And chances are that sooner or later, these soldiers also may discover that, well, this is getting boring. We don't really need to do this anymore. But very often they are also trapped. I know that because you can
Yeah.
get trapped for hundreds of years in a cycle like this. I
Or
had a, yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say, or another example could be like the Irish Brigade. That was pretty much Gettysburg was the last battle where they were together. The Union Irish Brigade, and it was never the same. Maybe some of the Irish Brigade have returned to like lift up their comrades and be like, hey, I know, you miss us, but we did move on to this. And yeah, we weren't the same. This is where we were our best. And
Yeah,
so they're there kind of collecting fallen comrades who, didn't feel like they should move forward. And they're like, nope, we're here to tell you, we want you to go on with us. We want you to, we're picking you up, so to speak, and lifting you up and helping you come over, but we're assuming it's, oh, the whole, they're all ghosts. Well, no, maybe some of them are not ghosts, so to speak, but here to help fallen comrades.
yeah, that could be. Like I said, everything is possible.
Yeah, which and that's why I say it could rewrite paranormal investigations, because we would have to relook at, who's there and why, instead of basing it just on an aftermath.
Yeah, yeah, and there's one more thing that I wanted to say on the reincarnation part.
Yes.
That is, when you if you have a choice and you know you have a choice, you don't have to go back. But you may want to. They could have been some really interesting things that you were working on, wanting to do, and you wanted to go back and have the experience again and maybe complete it at a different time. Now, you can reincarnate in the timeline that you were in a different body. Or you could reincarnate also in the distant past. Let's say that you are an Egyptologist at heart and you wanted to find out how did they build the Cheops pyramid. Reincarnate back in that time when they built it. You can.
Yeah, and I actually have an interesting question for you around reincarnation as well. And that is when we go to lay our body down and leave it, so to speak, we only call to like our mother, father, or like grandma, maybe. In other words, a close relative in the timeline. Is there a reason we don't call, like, hey, let's say, for example, distant cousin of Julius Caesar? And I don't go on my deathbed and go, Julius, come help me. Why we only call the more recent? Is it an innate knowledge of they're probably reincarnated and unable to help, and that's why we call mom, dad, grandma, or uncle, aunt the closer relatives and not our distant relatives?
Yeah, I think it works better when you're someone that you already have a close connection with. Because remember, we are connected to everything, but we are better connected to some people and some things. So if you are better connected with family, that's probably where you have a better chance of making the connection. If you call out to Julius Caesar, we have to figure out which one of them. There were many Caesars. So yeah, they may get the call, but hey, who's that guy? Well, I'm joking here about that, but it is not as well connected, so I doubt if that probably would happen. I'm not sure. I That's brand new to me. I'm not thought about this before.
Yeah, and I hadn't either until we were talking about this, and it's like, yeah, we always hear everyone call a more recent relative
Yeah.
versus an ancestor.
Hmm. Yeah. Well, that's this is an interesting arena, and it is our responsibility to figure it out while we're here, because what we have here will travel with us to the next existence. And from what I hear from people that I have communicated on the other side, whatever they knew here, that's all they know there. Unless they have been taken to a place where they can get a re education. And like I say, when you drop the body, don't hang around too long. Go with who comes to get you or go back. You can always come back and visit later. You will be allowed to.
Right.
So, just don't get stuck here, because being a ghost is no fun. Let me give you a
Right.
quick little 40-second example on that. While I was still back in Europe, I think I was probably about 19 years old or so, on a bet. We were talking about ghosts, and on a bet, we heard that the cathedral in Trondheim, Norway, was haunted. And somebody bet me and another guy that we wouldn't dare to stay there overnight. And of course, you couldn't anyway, because they closed the door and get everybody out at night. But we went in late afternoon. We went up into the back, up above the one of the organs where they play music. and we hid. So when everybody left, they locked the doors, and we were still in the cathedral. And, and then it got dark. There was just a few faint lights from street lights that came in through the windows, and we could hear people singing down in the major hall. They were singing down there. There was somebody screaming, and we could hear somebody like dragging chains behind them, walking up the middle of the corridor in the main hall. And it scared the shit out of us. We were sitting back there, quiet. Every so often we peeked up above the railing and looked down there. Nobody down there, but we could hear them singing, and we could hear them dragging the chains up the middle of the church. This cathedral was built 900 years ago. So a lot of things happened back then. The Catholic Church was ruthless to people that didn't believe what they believed or wanted you to believe. So it could been those ghosts in that cathedral could have been there for 3, 4, 5, 6, 700 years, 900 years.
Could have been 1,000 or more because you're
Yeah.
assuming attached to the building and not the land.
Yeah. Yeah. And in the morning, I think it was 9 in the morning, they opened the cathedral back up. And we waited a little bit until there was some people in there, and then we snuck out and left. And we were not back for a good while.
What did you get for winning the bet though?
I forgot what it was. It was probably a bottle of moonshine with scotch or something. That's what we did back then.
Yeah. Did they believe you that you spent the night in there, or were they like,
Yeah,
no?
yeah, they were there, and when we came out in the morning, so yeah, they believed us. Hmm.
I bet there weren't that many bets after that though.
No, no, they, I think they probably, I believe I think they believed what we actually told them happened too, because they were pretty open people, so I think so. But that rumor I mentioned in the beginning, a rumor
Yeah.
that sooner or later we will find out. When we get to that point, educate yourself now because that will help you later. And when you get the choice, you want to reincarnate or you want to go back home to the source of all things. That's tell the guardians that I want to go back to the monad. That is what it's called in the spiritual world. The monad is where everything is bliss. That is the source of all things. So when you do that, you have joined back with a universal conscious, or should I say, God, if you like. And I know Christians and Muslims, they're going to say, nah, yeah, 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 sure. They,
Well, probably the
but,
Jewish too.
yeah, them too. But the Jews are not that stupid, though. They don't believe in hell. They don't
No.
believe in hell, so they don't have any really bad experiences afterwards. I don't think because they don't believe in it. Christians do, and that's why once in a while it can happen that you have a bad experience. And until you figure it out, that you can think yourself out of there. Two ways to do that. One of them is forgiveness. Ask forgiveness for what you thought brought you there. And then another one is use the telephone. Ask your mom to come and get you. Or you could ask if you believe strongly enough in this guy that lived 1998 years ago, Jesus asked for him to come and get you, but ask for forgiveness also. That is a key that opens doors and locks.
And when you say ask forgiveness, is it forgiveness for yourself or forgiveness of how you treated others, or are we talking about what was done to you that you were experiencing?
Well, the to you part I'm not so sure with, because we create our own reality. So we did it to ourselves, but
Right,
spiritual sense of it, there is no such thing as bad experiences, but physically there is. So if we harm somebody, ask for forgiveness for the situation and ask yourself forgiveness for allowing it to happen, and ask the other person, if there is one, for of forgiveness for what happened to them. Because you may not have been the only one doing things. There may have been other peripheral energies involved in what happened.
right. And again, it's like I can't help but think about, as we're, talking about dropping the body and moving on to the next, journey, so to speak.
Yeah, yeah,
Like you're saying, prepare yourself, and what you think is what's going to happen. And so it's easy, I think, in our minds right now to go, oh, I'll think about this, this, and this.
yeah,
But when you're in that actual physical moment, it's like it's, my experience when my mom and dad passed was I could see, them struggling a little bit and like confusion of why they're still conscious while this is happening. And I can't help but think, what am I going to be thinking in that final moment? Because,
yeah,
yeah, I mean, here were two people that were spiritually aware, spiritually, you know, mm, as knowledgeable as I am. And here I'm talking with you about it and sharing, great insights back and forth. But then it's like in that last physical moment act, it's like,
yeah,
are we really going to have that awareness, or are we going to get trapped in the, oh my God, the body's shutting down now? Well, I'm still here.
yeah.
Did I not do this right? And it's like cause that confusion. And how long will you be stuck in that?
Yeah, I think that's education on this side helps us later. And when we find ourselves there, we can also ask. There is higher beings observing, even though if we do not see them, we can ask them, come and help me. Or you can ask for things to happen. You can ask for information. You just might have an answer. Somebody might show up. But the best thing I can think of is use the telephone.
And I actually, talking about reincarnation and, transitioning moment, there is talk of like angels, so to speak, that fell from heaven and are now human beings living a human experience. When they go to drop the body and move forward, are they going to be able to say, hey, I made a mistake? Didn't really, want to fall. I rather, I learned what I needed to learn. Can I return to the angelic realm, or are they forever going to have to go through the human cycles to learn everything that is to be human? And that's why they say you can never return once you fall.
Yeah, but I think you can return, but it is your choice. If you realize that I tried to do something here that was really would be good for mankind, and I would have learned an awful lot doing it, but I was cut short by that traffic accident, you could go back and try. They will create a situation. The guardians of the soul will create a lifetime situation where you can go through in a different time, different place, go through something similar and learn that experience, maybe slightly different, but you can have that accomplishment and learning experience. So they are brilliant entities, but they are here for their purpose also. They are very likely entities that is funneling you back for you to have experiences and feelings, especially the negative feelings. They feed on it. Those are called the archons. Whenever you have a negative experience, there is an energy come off of that that is called loosh, and they need it to sustain themselves. So that's something that is also called the false light. I don't talk a lot about that because it's very controversial. Do you hear that? Uh,
Uh, I'm not sure what you're hearing.
I hear humming here. Okay, there you go. But the false light is real. But you will hear and you will understand what it is by questions that you ask. You can ask, will this light lead me back to the source of all things? Or are you, ask them, are you of the light from the source of all things or the monad? If they do not answer yes, they are not. They are very likely archons that is there to harvest you, send you back into physical creation again so you can have experience. And they will have the energy coming off of you to sustain them. So this is, yeah, there is video on this on YouTube that some of them are a little misleading, but it is something that we need to learn about. But when that time comes through 275 years from now, I'm going to ask them, are you of the light from the source of all things, from the monad? If they don't say yes, I'll tell them, I want nothing to do here. I'm going back to the source. Because then you will be funneled towards where that source is. That could be through someone you know that is already found the place, or you can find it on your own. Or
Yeah.
someone from there. I know who's going to meet me after I drop the body. I have already designed that. It's going to be a light being that I already know. I met him. He's going to be coming to get me and take me back home.
Right. And one thing I'm going to ask, because I don't want to dwell and end on a negative kind of thought or energy, but when you say, they have to answer yes, can they say, can an archon lie and say, yes, we are? And in which case you buy into and get trapped and loosed because you trusted their yes?
Yeah, but that is when you are there. Remember, everything is telepathic. You will also have a feeling that comes with the answer. It's very hard to lie at that level of consciousness and you not knowing it. Because if it's in their mind, you will know it.
Yeah.
So there's feelings and there may be conflicting answers that is coming. So you will know if that was a lie.
Yeah. I had that feeling. I just wanted to ask for those that may be watching this and, thinking in the back of their minds, it's too easy to hear, a yes or a no
Yeah,
and be like, okay, and be thinking we have mimics, we have tricksters, so how, they're not there in this point, and it's like, yeah, they are, but they're easier to see through, like you're saying, you can feel the resonance of them and be like, no, you're not who you're pretending to be, and so
yeah,
no, not joining you. So
right.
you've mentioned your book a few times. Is there anything else that you want to promote
Yeah,
out?
I want to show you. You can go to Amazon, put my name in there, and you can find the book or The Spiritual Science, Higher Conscious Thinking, and How to Access the Universal Consciousness. It is. It will teach you how to use your mind in ways you normally would think would be impossible, and it'll show you with a little practice you could actually do some time trips with it, and also it will show you how you could create the future that you want to have and live it before you actually have to live it in the physical. It gets very deeply into do that, and go to Amazon and bring up the book and then click on the picture and you get a little drop down of what is in all the subjects, about 70, 80 different subjects written about. So you could go through that and you will find something that you probably can't live without. So go try it.
Right, and where do you see Broadcast Team Alpha going? Do you have a vision of where it's going and what it's going to become, or are you just letting it unfold naturally?
Well, it has been pretty much naturally so far, but there is plans in the work to start expanding it. There is a way to get it on national TV in many different countries, and I'm exploring that, and it can be done. So we're going to expand a little bit on that, and I'm also Nora in love. She ended up going back to full-time nursing, so I don't have a co-host anymore. And I need one, so I'm gonna have to do something about that sometime. I feel like I'm just hopping around on one leg here right now.
Well, you do it well.
Well, we all got over 1,000 videos that we done for 7 years, so we done okay so far, but it's going to expand.
Well, I wish the best of luck to you and to Broadcast Team Alpha, and I'm also kind of laughing and smiling because I know you don't need it because you are unfolding in such brilliant ways already. So I just know you're going to be excelling no matter what happens. And so thank you.
Yeah, we're having fun, and that's the thing. And then we have Mac, the producer behind the curtain that makes everything happen, and nothing will happen without him. So I really appreciate him. And also Divya, she is excellent with her artwork on everything we do. So we have a good crew.
You do, and they have a great system that you put in place. And I almost wanted to say a great leader, but I know you don't view yourself as the lead, that you view everyone equally. And so that's why I turned around and said a great system.
Yeah, and the thing about having fun is important. Look at what you and I do. We get to associate with some of the most interesting people in the world. How can anything be better than that? We're having
I,
fun.
I agree. And the beauty of it is you don't leave the conversation feeling like, oh my god, I looked so stupid next to that person because they were here and my level is here. It's somehow we managed to do this and we equal and treat each other equally and
Yeah,
respectfully, and I feel like it's an authentic conversation and that's what people love.
yeah, absolutely. Oh, well, I can see the bottom of the coffee cup now, so I guess we're done, huh?
Yes, and before you go, I have one message for you.
Oh,
And that is from my heart and the heart of my shows to you. Thank you for what you're doing for humanity. Thank you for being you. Thank you for modeling authenticity. And I'm even going to say thank you for showing us humor in everyday life. It is greatly appreciated, well received, and I offer it back to you.
well, thank you very much. I will take that, and like the word goes, to you, ditto.
Thank you.
Same, same to you.
And to everyone that's watching or will be watching, be sure to follow Aage on Broadcast Team Alpha.
Yeah,
And you can follow along on my shows. And do like, subscribe, and follow because you never know when Aage will be making another appearance. He is always welcome, and it's always a joy and pleasure and an honor to have you on.
yeah, and something I want to mention real quick before we go, and that is that 5 years ago, Nori and I created a mastermind, a spiritual think tank. If you really want to know what's going on there, I'm tomorrow night. That means Thursday night, and of course, if you watch this in the future, go back and find out on Broadcast Team Alpha YouTube and well over 20 other platforms we're on. Find the one about the mastermind and watch it because you will get to experience the med beds on this one.
Oh, wow.
So go have a look. That is
That's
on
exciting because
eight
we talked
o'clock.
about those the last time you were on.
Yeah, 8 o'clock East Coast time on Thursday night. That's tomorrow night, and the what is tomorrow night? That's the 13th,
Uh,
isn't it? The
yes, the
13th.
13th of August.
Yeah. So go have a look at that because I think you're going to enjoy it. Because remember that mind created universe? I've done something like this before, and people that listen to it over and over again, they find themselves becoming a lot more healthy than they were before. We
Very
have
cool.
done amazing things. Saved the lady's life. She was on her deathbed in the hospital and walked out perfectly healthy the next day. Created rain out of almost clear skies, and we do a lot of goofy things. If you want to be part of this and check it out, go and send me an email to TheMasterMindConnection TheMasterMindConnection@gmail.com, or just get a hold of me. You can find me. And then I'll send you some information and a link to come and check it out.
Thank you for that. And truly, thank you for everything you're doing.
You're so welcome. And you too. Keep doing it.
Yes, and with that, we are going to say have a wonderful afternoon, everyone, and we will see you on the next episode. Good night, everyone.
Very good night.